Hello there, I'm Danielle Ralston. I am the founder and head coach here at ND Outloud. What is ND Outloud? ND Outloud is a team of neurodivergent coaches. We are neurodivergent, every single one of us. TBIs, PTSD, ADHD, autism, ADHD, and so much more. Bipolar disorder, all of the things. We also have a passion for supporting others like us, so you don't have to struggle like we did in our past. We have all taken trainings and certifications and all of that so that we can support you in living a better life and upgrading all of the things that are frustrating about your life. What is this session going to give you? This session is going to give you actionable tips. So yes, we're going to talk about our programs and all of the things that we offer, but I want you to walk away with something actionable for something that is overwhelming, frustrating, or just plain annoying you right now in your life. Or if you're a parent or a spouse of someone with neurodivergence, to help them as well. I want you to walk away with something today. So please sign up today for a free call. We can learn more about each other. Hello. This is Danielle and Tim with ND Visionary Partners, formerly ND Outloud, well, part of the ND Outloud family. And we are here to talk about some touchy subjects. So the first thing we want to preface, this is not a political conversation. We are talking facts, we're talking data, and we are talking what's actually affecting the disability community right now and how companies can follow the laws and follow the things that are already established, already out there that they should have been doing in the first place. And also to really understand what's going on. We do need to understand what's going on politically. We are not taking sides. We are not discussing any of that. We are just talking on the effects for the disability community and the workplace development and hiring processes that are out there right now. Obviously, that's a very big part of what we talk about here. So Tim and I actually have two different sets of talking points today that's all one subject. So I'm going to actually let Tim dive in first because his definitely comes first, and I'm going to follow up with some pieces. So Tim, dive in.
Yeah, so we're going to look at this from a historical perspective. We're going to look at like where we are as a country and the space, and then we're going to look at what things we're seeing happen right now in the current times and what we think is going to happen over the next several months. And this is all intended to really raise awareness about these issues and to help everyone that listens to this understand that ND Outloud Visionary Partners are really on the cutting edge of addressing these issues. And we're actually very excited about that in terms of like how we've really done a tweak in our business model, not a full change because that wasn't needed, but we really want to address the current issues as they stand today because the world is a little crazy out there. I don't think anybody can disagree that that's the case. And but we're still in the space in which we want to help individuals with disabilities, individuals that are neurodivergent, ADHD, deaf and hard of hearing, which is a passion of mine as a deaf person. So we're going to talk a little bit about the history behind this, and then we'll go on from there. So we know that Section 504 and the Rehabilitation Act of 1972 are big foundational elements in our law, and we're a country that's based upon our laws and our constitution and all that. So we're going to focus on that. So we know that 504 and the Rehabilitation Act in 1972, which was passed under President Richard Nixon, was all about making sure that individuals with disabilities, that are documented disabilities, whether they're congenital or whether they are disabilities that they received later in life as a result of a car accident or something along those lines. Veterans who were injured in conflicts and had a disability as a result. So this act and this law that was passed covered all of that to help making sure that they have rights. The foundational element of that was the civil rights movement in the 60s, which stemmed to 1972 when this act was passed. And then going beyond over that next decade or so, we then got into the ADA, which was passed in 1990. But there was a big movement that started in the late 80s that that led to ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, that was passed by President H.W. Bush in 1990. So these are really, really important foundational elements in the American law and society.
So I want to bring up that there are federal pieces to the Rehab Act and state pieces to the Rehab Act. So that's a law that the federal kind of oversees, but the state has their own pieces to that, which is the next part of what Tim's going to talk about, I think, bringing up what's going on right now.
Yeah, so, and, like I should preface that piece in saying that I'm the chair of the board that oversees Idaho's rehabilitation program. So like I'm coming from a base of knowledge and a place of, I got some passion in this space because I feel that what this system does at the federal level down to the state level is incredibly important. When you look at this from a labor market standpoint, we know that the unemployment rate for individuals with disabilities is usually about double the national average. I feel that if we did not have a system like the Rehabilitation Act and the rehabilitation system, that unemployment rate would be much higher than it currently is. These are systems that are full of incredible professionals that are highly trained. A master's degree is pretty much the entry requirement into important roles in the system. I don't think anybody in the rehabilitation system in the U.S. are in it for the money. It's not a high-paid sort of role, but these are amazing people that I know personally on the national scale because I go to a lot of the national conferences, so I know a lot of the national leaders all the way down to the state level, and how they work day in and day out to help individuals with disabilities to be gainfully employed, to have the education that's necessary for those roles to be gainfully employed. This is a system that helps entrepreneurs that are individuals with disability with the tools that they need to be successful in building their own businesses. We know that the money that gets poured into the system to provide these services, the benefit on the other end is far more than the money that's invested into the system. So, and these are all, backed by statistics. So one of the things that we're seeing on a worldwide scale, I've seen some countries that are really good at providing services for people with disabilities. So like, for example, I had the opportunity to go to Poland back in 2017. And one of the things that I noticed there is like everything is handicap accessible. We're talking, like Old Town in Warsaw, which is like one of the oldest old towns in the world. And they like everything was wheelchair accessible, and they really made sure that anybody would be able to have access to these public the public art and buildings and all of that. They even had some, there'll be buildings there that would be thousands of years old, and they would have models of these buildings next to the building that were for those that were visual impairments to be able to actually visualize the building by being able to feel the model that's right outside of it. It's so cool.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Um, so like we've seen that where they're good at providing services and helping individuals with disabilities to be able to be contributors to society, and giving them the tools that are necessary for their own success. So this is not handing out money to people. This is giving them the tools that they need to be successful and contribute to society. But then I've seen the other end of it. I have a friend of mine that lives in Mexico. Not to criticize other countries, but this is just it's a fact. My friend has a family member that had Down syndrome, and he just went his whole life where he was not able to do anything in his life and achieve any kind of success because there were no services that were available to this person. So that means that only individuals that are of high privilege that is born into a family and that individual is disabled can achieve success. So anybody that does not have any sort of privilege is just sort of existing until they pass away. So those are like two ends of the spectrum, and we as the United States, we're in an incredible place of privilege that we have these services, we have this system of laws that are in place. And it's just really important to be aware that we have these, first of all, and second of all, that you know, we're only like I've always felt, and Ronald Reagan would even say this, and he was quoted in saying this many times, that we're only one generation away from being able to lose all those things that we obtained. So that's basically, we're kind of in a crossroads as a country in which we're trying to figure out who we are as a country, whether, and that's a fact, that's not a political statement. Um, and it's good to be aware of some of the things that we're about to mention in regards to what's about to happen or where we're starting to see the trends. But going back to where we are at the labor market, and this is probably a key section point before I turn it over to you to kind of talk about your points, is we have a labor shortage in the United States. We have a labor shortage also in countries like China, um, the European Union, Australia. There are certain countries that don't have a labor shortage, like African countries and India, but generally speaking, most of the Western world and a big part of the world economy is facing labor shortages right now. Um, and that's exacerbated by baby boomers retiring by the millions every year between now and 2030. I sound like a broken record when I say that, but those are all things that are facts that are backed by labor market statistics and the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the BLS system within the Department of Labor. Um, so it's a numbers game. We're in a place in which there is a shortage of labor, which means companies really need to put an honest and an emphasis on hiring individuals with disabilities. And this is not for charity or just to do the right thing. It's because you need these people to sustain your businesses and to help to continue to grow your businesses. So that's where ND Visionary Partners come into play.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk. I have some specific things talking about ADA. What is the role of ADA in our world? So, what is the ADA? The ADA is the governing body to make sure that people, companies follow disability services and supply people with jobs, because people traditionally, before all of this happened, even into 1990, were not getting jobs for something as simple as being deaf. Even if they had a PhD, there were people with PhDs who couldn't get jobs because they were deaf.
Yeah,
I know. It was not based on merit-based qualifications.
Yeah.
And I just saw an amazing TikTok yesterday of a surgeon who is paralyzed from the waist down, who has been working with the hospital system that he's in, and I can't remember where this is. He is the first paralyzed surgeon. His stand-up wheelchair and all of that has been approved. They figured out how to sterilize it and all of that in the US. And this is what the ADA does.
Yeah.
And he relied on the ADA heavily to get this in place. He is perfectly capable. He is extremely smart. He was the top of his class, but he couldn't get into an operating room because they didn't want to make reasonable accommodations. He purchased his own chair. He purchased the equipment. So he wasn't asking the hospital to purchase this equipment for him. He was just asking the hospital to make accommodations for him.
Yeah. So we know that every state has an ADA coordinator that an individual with disability can go to, let's say they felt that they were discriminated and not given a role because of their disability. They can go to the coordinator and help.
In each state, that is called your Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and that is who you put the complaint in. That is part of ADA. So that is what that is. So what is the ADA? The ADA is there to help you as an employee get the reasonable accommodations you may be being denied. Reasonable accommodations. So that is something that I want to make really, really clear. They have to not be cost prohibitive to a company. So this does depend on the company. If you're working at a very tiny company of 5 employees, asking for a $2,000 stand desk is cost prohibitive for them. That is cost prohibitive for them. But if you work for Microsoft or HP or whatever, some very, very large corporation, that is not a cost prohibitive accommodation. So again, it does depend on company size.
Yeah, it does. And the other thing is that employers can also tap into the ADA for perhaps to help understand what the law says so that they can help, understand and follow the law.
Mhm.
And so that piece of it, where there also may be programming and funding in your particular state through that office to help cover the cost for whatever that accommodation is.
Yes. And there are a lot of programs for that, at least right now. We're hoping they stick around. And that is an issue and a political issue. And we're going to give you some political advice here at the end of how we can combat some of these negative impact of things that are going on. So the cost of the accommodation is based on the employer's company's financial resources. The size and number of employees also affects the accommodation. And I think a lot of people have this misconception that ADA laws are the same no matter where you work. They are not. They absolutely are not. In the impact on business operations. And this even includes coming in late or working from home, things like that. If you work in a customer service where customers are coming in and you're customer facing, working from home is not a reasonable accommodation.
Yep. Yeah. And so we talked about this before in a lot of other conversations, is that a lot of accommodations don't cost anything.
A lot of accommodations don't cost anything, but some accommodations would be very hard for a company to provide. If you work at McDonald's, you can't work from home. I'm sorry, you have to go into McDonald's and you have to work at McDonald's, or Walmart or something like that. So the accommodations are written for an equal balance between the employer and the employee.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And another thing to add, because like one of the companies that I partner with is an amazing company called Translate Live that had created a platform that basically eliminates language barriers across the board with 260 languages, including American Sign Language. And so their device costs $2,500, which in the grand scheme of things is not really that much money. But for a smaller employer, that might be a lot of money. But there are a lot of states that have purchased many of these devices, and through a form that the employer would just have to sign, basically signing that they will accept the equipment, and if something happens, or the cost involved in repair. But they basically got the device for free as a worker accommodation for the individual with a disability that had the language barrier or a deaf and hard of hearing person. So there's a lot of resources
There are so many resources out there. So, and if you have a question, if you're an employer and you have an accommodation request that you feel like because you're a small employer, you can't honor, and you as an employer are frustrated, please reach out to us. We will help you find the resources that you need or help find to adapt, because while you're a small company and you can't afford Translate Live and there aren't any resources in your state or your area for that, there are other very cost efficient options. Right now, Tim and I are using Zoom, which has closed captioning on it, which is a reasonable adaptive accommodation for Tim. And this is something for $20 a month that a company can institute for the one employee. It's not a problem. So there are lots of things that you can do that are not cost prohibitive from the employer standpoint. So I want to talk about some stats on the prevalence of invisible disabilities in the workplace. So according to the ADA, so I'm going by their stats, 16% of U.S. workers identify as having one or more invisible disability. Yeah. We, in our studies, are seeing it be more like 50 to 75%. So I don't agree with that stat. We know that it's much higher because not everybody reports, and that's a big problem. The reluctance to disclose disabilities. Nearly 47% of employees with invisible disabilities say that they haven't disclosed.
Yeah, they're afraid to.
Mm-hmm. So ADA says that 16% are, and then we're also hearing that 47% aren't disclosing. So that stat is again much higher. And the impact on workplace inclusion, employees with invisible disabilities are nearly twice as likely to feel and be. This isn't just a personal feeling. They are excluded from work. They're excluded from promotions. They're excluded from even social obligations at work. People tend to exclude somebody that's quirky or not the same as everybody else. And again, this isn't a feeling. This is a stat. So 8% of people with disabilities in the workplace are excluded from promotions, from social things, from even the water cooler conversations. They're excluded from those conversations. That has a huge impact on somebody's engagement at work, their mental health at work, and it also affects their productivity a lot.
Yeah, and those are things that's happened to me in the past. So, like, that I have. When you mentioned that, I started like thinking of some certain memories that I've had, and how that impacted me, or things that I didn't realize impacted me until later on. So yeah, those are very real things.
They're real things, and that makes people not be, again, your productivity, anytime productivity goes down, it's 20-40% productivity loss from things like that. So 8% of your population at work right now is feeling a 40-ish% productivity loss. That's not helpful to anyone. And there's no long-term dedication to a job that way too. So people are job changing a lot, or giving up on working in corporate at all and starting their own businesses, or doing gig economy, which is DoorDash, things like that, which is also hurting companies when it comes to a hiring pool. So while 80% of disabilities are not visually apparent, there's still 80% of disabilities aren't visually apparent. Unless if you had a female version of Tim here with longer hair, you would never know that Tim was deaf.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, like I was just going to say, if I'm wearing a hat right now, you wouldn't know that I was wearing a hearing aid.
Yeah. Well, and even with some newer hearing aids, you can't, even with somebody with buzz cut and things like that, you can't necessarily see them. I'm as someone who's been around that my whole entire life, I remember where they were huge and honking and very visible, and now they're barely visible for most people. This is why legal protections are in place. This is why the ADA exists, is to provide employees with reasonable accommodations and provide employers a reasonable way to provide them.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this, and I'm going to put it on you to come up with, put these numbers out. But we know that the bottom line and the increase in profit that the employer has when they include individuals with disabilities as a part of the workforce, include them, not just as lip service, but actually that they're a part of the team. Then you have a profit increase that is very remarkable.
So within 90 days of providing reasonable accommodations for this one company I worked at, I have an NDA, so I can't tell you who they are. Very, very big company. Their one department saw an increase, and it was a sales department, of 90% in sales when they accommodated 4 of their 25 people.
Yes.
4 of 25, a 90% increase in sales. Yeah. And you want to know what the accommodations were? Transcription of calls with clients.
Oh, that's so difficult.
Follow up of notes from those calls. Somebody summarized what the action points were, which back then it was a physical person doing that, not software. And somebody checking in with them for accountability every day. Those were the 3 accommodations. That was it. And now AI can do 90% of that at $20 a month.
Yeah.
Versus paying a full-time employee, which we had to hire a specific person for these 4 people. But now it's AI.
Yeah, I was just going to say now I have Caption with the company that I'm partnering with, that caption calls, and it changed my life as a result. It's a free service that I now have as a result of ADA. that funds the FCC to be able to have the technology accessible for someone like myself.
Exactly. And again, $20 accommodation for 4 employees. So that's $5 an employee of reasonable accommodations.
Yep. Yep.
That's it.
And
90% increase. Yeah, in profit. And innovation increases by 60% when you have neurodivergent people on your team, when you accommodate them properly.
Yep. Yep.
So all of these things, again, with the 504 Act, with the ADA, with DEI is part of what provided these things. Now, DEI, I know that that's a very, very politically charged acronym right now. And it did become very muddied. DEI did become muddied. It was not it was, thank God for DEI for a long time, but it became very politically muddied and not followed. Companies stopped following it. We shouldn't be still having these conversations in 2025, but we are, because the reality is companies were not actually following DEI policies. That's why merit-based policies are so much more inclusive for people with individual disabilities and invisible disabilities, and they also, merit-based things also support those without disabilities who happen to be a single mom and need some accommodations because they're a single mom or a single dad, or your parents are aging and you're needing to take care of them. We're seeing more and more, in my generation, we're seeing more and more of this, where we have to take care of our aging parents. We need those accommodations to take care of our aging parents. We got to take them to doctor's appointments. We need to work from home some days because they're fall risks or whatever. This is where merit-based support becomes way more important than DEI ever was, because we need to be hiring people based on their merits, based on their skills, increasing those skills, supporting those skills, and accommodating everyone, not just the people with invisible disabilities or visible disabilities. We need to be accommodating everyone. And I think that's one thing that the changes that are coming may help us actually finally achieve. I'm hoping in 2030, I'm not still having these same conversations. I want to see the world fundamentally changed in how it operates.
Yeah, and I'm hopeful that in this place where things are again a bit crazy, I think the rhetoric is a little over the top. That like what's actually happening on the ground and what we're trying to do with ND Visionary Partner is all about. Again, it's all data driven. It's all based upon numbers. There's no emotion that's involved in that. It's a lot of personal experience from everyone that's on the team. But we're in a place in which we truly want to educate and help be in a place in which to hire individuals with disabilities. That's of course a motivation of ours as someone like myself who is disabled, and you as well. But yeah, I truly think that we're in a place in which the world is about to change fundamentally in a good way as a result of this craziness that we're now seeing. But like one of the things that we do want to mention is we had come across that there is currently a lawsuit that's happening right now with 17 different states, so states like Texas, Alabama, Louisiana, Montana, Wyoming. I'm not going to name
South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Utah, Indiana, West Virginia. I mean, it's not just Deep South, because I know that there's a lot of things that are negative about that. It's not just Deep South. There's a lot. It's all over the place. So we want to give you how you reach out to your representatives. You need to be calling your ADA office, or you need to be calling your district attorneys. You need to be calling your congressmen and your senators. All of them. If you are interested in doing that and you have some executive function issues and you're not sure how to start that conversation, reach out to me. I will provide you a script for all of that. I'm happy to provide anybody with a script for any of this. I'm happy to show you how to use ChatGPT to create your scripts, whatever you want. I will help you have these conversations, but you need to be reaching out to your representatives, because we need to be making sure at the federal level, at the state level, at your county level, and at your city level that we are having these conversations consistently.
Yeah.
And not just because there's a lawsuit right now. We need to be speaking out loud consistently and not being combative, because that is something I'm unfortunately seeing a lot of. And I understand, I understand completely, but we cannot be combative. We have to have good, quality, informative conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I truly feel as a nation, we have gotten away from having actual conversations with people that may have some different perspectives on the same issue. And that's what we're trying to do, is have that sort of, open discussion and dialogue within the company, and then outwardly as well. So yeah, like we'll be big on that. But like the crux of it is that they're suing to remove the 504 protection, and which is connected to the Rehabilitation Act, which is sort of a move toward ADA being the next step in that process. So, and there's a lot that can happen between now and then, but we're just in a place in which we want to educate and allow you the opportunity to reach out to your local representative to share your opinion on one way or the other on the issue.
Yeah, whatever your opinion is on it. And yes, a lot of this is financially charged. Like, a lot of states are feeling the pain from these things, and they aren't getting the federal support that they need there's a million reasons and a million things going on. We're, again, not getting into the politics of it, but that is the reality. And if you don't express your opinions and you don't support or not support, if that's your opinion, then our representatives are taking a wild guess. Let's give them data.
Yeah. Yeah, data and your voice does matter, whether you think it does or not. It does matter. So now is the time to show your voice.
Yeah, and filling out an online petition does not matter. I'm going to tell you that right now. There are so many online petition sites that you can put your name on. That is diddly squat. Call people. Your voice means something.
Yeah, yes, I agree. So yeah, come to us at ND Visionary Partners. We got some really exciting things that we're doing that we can't quite disclose yet. That we're in a place where using the concept of merit-based hiring, merit-based consideration for employment is the way, and we're kind of on the cutting edge in that space, and we're very excited for that. So continue to follow us, reach out to us. We're here to help.
We are absolutely here to help. If you have questions, if you need help, if you want to reach out to your representatives, and again, executive function is an issue for you, don't even think about it. Just message me, message Tim. We are happy to help you get over that barrier and help you reach out to who you need to. Have an amazing day. And again, questions, we have the answers.